On the night Elder Crane's grave was exhumed, precisely at the hour of opening the coffin, a sudden cold wind swept through. The coffin lid sprang open, revealing Elder Crane inside, smiling. From his mouth, a black snake slithered out. From that moment, the entire village of Loitui was plunged into terror. The dead became demons, living snakes turned into spirits, and human blood became an offering to the gods. Every night, cats and dogs disappeared, followed by children. Some claimed to have seen a naked old man, a black snake coiled around his neck, laughing in the night, offering blood-stained candies. Others spoke of hearing knocking at their doors, familiar voices calling, only to open them and find nothing but empty eye sockets. From within the grave soil, the Black Serpent Mother had awakened, demanding the blood debts of the previous generation. And if tonight you hear a faint tap at your window, do not open it. It is waiting for you. In the dead of a pitch-black night, in a desolate graveyard of Loi Thui village, a group of people were strenuously digging up Elder Crane's tomb with hoes and shovels. These were not grave robbers, but a professional exhumation team hired whenever a family needed to rebury their ancestors. Standing at a distance were the descendants and relatives of Elder Crane, each wearing a white mourning band on their head. In front of them were platters laden with fruits, fresh meat, and votive offerings. Seated before the incense altar was Master Mean, the shaman, with a faded yellowed book in front of him, continuously muttering prayers, occasionally tapping a wooden fish drum beside him, producing rhythmic cock-cock sounds. All around, incense smoke billowed, coupled with the dim light of an incandescent lamp, creating an intensely gloomy and eerie scene. As the team was digging, a sudden clink sound, as if hitting something hard, echoed. Mr. Well, Victor, the head of the digging team, quickly spoke up. Easy, easy. You've hit the lid. After that, everyone carefully dug little by little until the entire coffin was exposed. Wiping sweat from his forehead, Mr. Guy, and it out, Victor said, lower the chains, quickly. The two men standing at the edge of the pit heard this, grabbed the chains, and lowered them. After securely fastening the chains to the coffin, Mr. Paul, Victor jumped out of the pit and told everyone to start on the pulley. After nearly 20 minutes of strenuous effort, the coffin was placed squarely at the mouth of the pit. Everyone's face now showed signs of exhaustion. Mr. Lee, Mr. Hart. Victor walked over to Master Mean, who was sitting, and asked, "The coffin is up. Can we open it now, Master?" Master Mean glanced at the watch on his wrist, then replied, "Not yet. 15 more minutes. We must open it exactly at 3:0. And let's open it exactly at 3:0 and..." Victor nodded slightly, returned to his team, and sat down to drink tea and smoke tobacco, waiting. As the clock struck exactly 3:0 a.m., Master Mean's hoarse voice boomed. "It's time." It's time. You may open the coffin now. The moment the master finished speaking, the men quickly stood up, hammers and crowbars in hand, approached the coffin, and pulled out all the nails. Their movements were swift and skilled. However, just as they were about to open the coffin lid, a sudden, unexpected hoot of an owl echoed, startling everyone. Eek! Ah! Ah! Looking up, they saw a very large owl perched on a nearby banyan tree, having appeared from nowhere. Its eerie green eyes stared intently at the coffin. Everyone present involuntarily shivered, a chill running down their spines. Even the experienced gravediggers were no exception. Mr. Alan, Elder Crane's eldest son, nervously approached Master Mean and quietly asked, "What is this, Master? Is there a problem?" Master Mean wore a thoughtful expression, pressing his fingers together. A moment later, he nodded and replied, "There shouldn't be any problem. I've consulted the omens repeatedly, and they all point to great fortune. Your family even has a noble benefactor from the unseen realm protecting. The divination is so clear. How could it be wrong?" Saying this, Master Mean turned his gaze towards Mr. Victor and loudly declared, "Open the coffin. The auspicious hour has arrived." Although still feeling a sight uneasy, Mr. Victor instructed his team to proceed with opening the coffin lid. The sound of crowbars prying against the wood sent shivers down their spines. But strangely, despite all the nails being removed, the coffin lid couldn't be pried open. It was as if someone inside was holding it shut, increasing the gravedigger's apprehension. The owl, which had been perching silently on the banyan tree, let out even more chilling, blood-curdling screeches as it watched the men struggling to open the lid. Never before, in all their years of grave digging, had these men witnessed such bizarre phenomena. They toiled for a long time, trying every method, but to no avail. Sweat drenched their foreheads from exhaustion and stress. Mr. Victor slammed his crowbar to the ground with a thud and walked over to Master Mean, saying, "Master, please look into this. This is very strange. We can't open the lid at all." In truth, Master Mean had been observing everything since the owl's first shriek, paying close attention to every move the grave diggers made. This situation was unprecedented, not only for Mr. Victor, but also for Master Mean himself. Before the master could figure out what to do, Mr. Victor suddenly suggested, Perhaps we should just break the lid open. We're going to burn it later anyway." Realizing that prolonging this would only cause more panic, Master Mean pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. He added, "You may break it, but you must be extremely careful. Do not disturb the body inside too much. It would not be good. Understood?" "Don't worry, Master. I will follow your instructions exactly," Mr. Victor replied. With that, he walked straight back to the coffin and forcefully brought his hoe down onto the lid. With the first powerful swing, he struck directly at the mud-caked glass panel on the lid, shattering it completely. As he prepared to strike again, he involuntarily shivered, having vaguely glimpsed something like two glowing eyes inside the coffin. He was about to shine his flashlight inside to see what it was when he jumped, startled by a thumping sound emanating from within. Not just him, but everyone standing nearby heard it clearly, turning their faces pale with fear. A sudden, piercingly cold gust of wind, seemingly from nowhere, swept through, making everyone's skin crawl with goosebumps. After a few more thumping sounds, the coffin fell silent again. The men stared at each other in bewilderment, but no one dared to approach. Before they could regain their composure, The owl, which had been perched on the banyan tree, suddenly took flight, swooped down, and landed right on the coffin lid. Its eerie green eyes stared fixedly at the men, and it let out a series of hoarse cries that sent shivers down their spines. Witnessing this utterly horrifying scene, the men quickly threw down their hoes and shovels and scrambled towards Master Mean. Although only observing from a distance, Elder Crane's descendants also began to feel terrified, their voices trembling. Mr. Victor spoke up. "What exactly is going on, Master? Is this some kind of disturbed grave or cursed burial? For so many strange things to be happening. Perhaps my team and I can't continue. We don't dare to exhume anymore." Master Mean was at a loss for how to explain these occurrences. Hearing this, Mr. Allen rushed forward and pleaded, "Oh no, if you gentlemen abandon us halfway, what will my family do? How about this? Please bear with us. We'll double your payment. Please try your best to help us." Although gripped by intense fear, Mr. Victor's eyes lit up upon hearing the offer of double payment. Indeed, it had been a month since these old men had been hired for a grave exhumation, and each of them was a hardened drunkard with no other trade. They truly didn't want to give up halfway. However, the continuous string of horrifying events had pushed them to such a state of fear. But now, with the promise of double pay, Mr. Victor began to waver. He turned and consulted with the other men for a moment, then looked at Mr. Allen and spoke. "Well, since you put it that way, we'll try our best. But I must say up front, if anything dangerous happens, we will stop immediately. And you still have to pay us as promised. If you agree, we'll continue. Otherwise, we won't." Forced into a corner, Mr. Allen could only nod in agreement. "All right, gentlemen. Just focus on your work. I promise I'll pay every penny of your fee." After the agreement was settled, the agreement was settled. Victor and his men again approached the coffin. The owl remained perched there, refusing to fly away. Mr. Victor walked closer, brandishing his hoe towards it to scare it off. But it just stood there defiantly, showing no fear. If this continued, they wouldn't be able to start anything. Thinking that prolonged hesitation would only make things worse, he took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and advanced, hoe in hand, intending to strike its head. It was as if the owl could read his thoughts. Once again, it took flight, soaring straight up to the banyan tree's crown, then looked down. From there, it continuously let out chilling, screaming cries that sounded eerily like a child's wails. "Everyone, let's work together. Break this coffin lid open, quickly." Mr. Victor's voice was like a shout, and the men dared not delay. Each of them, using all their strength, hammered down on the lid. In no time, the wooden surface cracked and was riddled with holes. Breathing a sigh of relief, Mr. Victor spoke again. "All right, now take the crowbars and pry it open." 2 men on each end gritted their teeth and strained to lever it open. Finally, the coffin lid could no longer withstand the force, and was flung away with a bang. Before they could even regain their senses or catch their breath, one of them suddenly shrieked, "Ghost! A ghost! There's a ghost!" The piercing scream startled everyone. When they looked down, the men froze in their tracks, as if struck dead. For inside the coffin, Elder Crane's face was staring at them, smiling. It was an utterly grotesque and terrifying smile, completely unlike that of a living person. But the horror didn't stop there. From Elder Crane's mouth, the head of a pitch-black snake slowly slithered out. Its head was so large that it literally stretched Elder Crane's mouth wide open to his ears. The men were so terrified they could no longer stand steadily. Their limbs turned to jelly, and their mouths stammered incoherently, unable to form a sound. They bolted, scrambling headlong towards Master Mean. Those standing further away also stared wide-eyed, mouths agape. Though they couldn't see what was inside the coffin, witnessing the men's reactions, they could only assume something truly horrific resided within, something that could induce such profound terror. At this point, no one could remain calm. Some of the more timid individuals had already started to flee in disarray. Mr. Victor, for some inexplicable reason, found his entire body stiff as a plank of wood. He wanted to run, but couldn't lift his feet, as if an invisible hand held him firmly in place. The terror he felt at that moment was truly beyond words. From within the coffin, a pale, shadowy hand slowly reached out, gripping the edge of the wooden lid. It then lifted its head, looking at Mr. Victor, and let out a chilling, grotesque laugh. Witnessing this horrifying spectacle, not only the descendants, but even Master Mean himself turned and fled headlong towards the village. The screams and shouts of fear, combined with the pounding footsteps, made the village dogs bark furiously. That night, the entire village of Loi Tui lost sleep. The next morning, when Elder Crane's family recounted the events, the story became a hot topic of agitated discussion throughout the village. Upon inquiring, they learned that Mr. Victor had not returned home since last night, but at this point, no one dared to go out and look for him. Everyone decided to report the matter to the authorities, asking for their help in the search. 2 hours after receiving the report, several local police officers, along with many curious onlookers, arrived at the scene. The platters of offerings from last night were scattered everywhere on the ground, as if someone had violently overturned them. Although it was now past 9, for some reason, everyone felt a chilling, eerie sensation as they approached the coffin. When they looked inside, they were all horrified and quickly recoiled, some even screaming aloud. For the person lying inside the coffin was none other than Mr. Victor. Despite their fear, the local police officers, representing the authorities before a large crowd, had to maintain composure. Officer Brian, the chief, loudly reassured everyone, "Everyone, please calm down. Those not involved, please step back and remain silent so we can do our work." With that, the officers approached the coffin to examine the body. Mr. Victor was found dead, his eyes wide open and staring, his entire body shriveled and blackened as if poisoned. A truly terrifying sight. Especially noticeable were 2 holes on the center of his forehead, resembling snake bites. Upon receiving the news, forensic experts from the district arrived to investigate and confirmed that these were indeed venomous snake fangs marks. However, many mysterious and perplexing questions still surrounded Mr. Victor's death. Even if he had been bitten by a snake, why was he found inside the coffin? Furthermore, the venom would require a certain time to take effect. During that period, he wouldn't have simply stood still waiting to die. After taking further statements from those present the previous night, the authorities could not uncover any additional clue. In the end, they could only conclude that Mr. Victor had died from a venomous snake bite, and the case was closed. When Mr. Victor's body was removed, Nothing else was found in the coffin. Even Elder Crane's remains were nowhere to be seen. This incident became a horrifying obsession, not only for the elder's family and descendants, but also for the entire village of Loa, too. People believed that some mysterious spiritual force must have interfered. The very next day, Mr. Allen, filled with a fierce determination, went to Master Mean's house. As soon as he entered, his face contorted in anger, and he spoke loudly. "Master, what kind of work is this? You clearly said there wouldn't be any problems, yet everything has gone disastrously wrong. Explain yourself. What is truly happening?" Master Mean's face showed regret and distress as he quickly tried to placate him. "Oh no, I didn't want this either. But I examined everything carefully, and there were clearly no issues. I don't know what happened either." Hearing Master Mean's words, Mr. Allen grew even more furious. "How can you say that, Master? I paid you every penny up front, and I followed your instructions precisely. And now you say you don't know? Come, let's talk inside. The villagers will hear us arguing and laugh." After stepping inside, Master Mean brewed a pot of hot tea, poured a cup for Mr. Allen, and then spoke. "What's done is done. The most important thing now is to find a way to deal with this source of calamity. Otherwise, many more people will die." Hearing Master Mean, Mr. Allen almost dropped his teacup. He quickly asked, "Master, what did you just say?" "More deaths." With a serious and cautious expression, Master Mean replied, "I am not joking or trying to scare you. That tomb holds many bizarre things. There is undoubtedly a mysterious force at play. You witnessed how abnormal the events of that day were." Hearing Master Mean, Mr. Allen's face grew even more visibly anxious. He asked again, "What exactly is it? Can you explain more clearly?" "You're frightening me, Master. As far as I know, if one finds a golden snake during an exhumation, it is called a dragon serpent's essence, which is an auspicious sign. But in that tomb, it was a black snake, a black serpent, which is an ominous sign. Not only that, but that snake was born from your ancestor's body, nurtured within it. One could say that the snake and the corpse are now born and died together. If the snake does not die, the corpse will never decompose or rot." Mr. Allen's jaw dropped, his mouth agape in astonishment and fear at Master Mean's words. He stammered, So is it still my Elder Crane? Or what is it?" Master Mean shook his head. The elder's soul departed immediately after death. "I suspect there must be some evil artifact within that tomb for the yin energy to be dense enough to nurture a black serpent." Still looking terrified, Mr. Allen asked again, "So what should my family do now? Please instruct us, Master. Will you bear any cost?" Taking a sip of tea, Master Mean shook his head and sighed. "It's difficult. This thing is not easy to deal with. As far as I know, its food is human and animal blood. Especially those who share blood relations with the elder, like yourself, must be even more careful because it would track them by their scent. However, it has one weakness. It is very afraid of sunlight. Therefore, it can only come out at night. So, it's best to tell your family and descendants not to go out at night. If that's the case, aren't you telling us to live the rest of our lives in worry and fear? Do you know of any way to completely eliminate it? Something that could kill it?" Master Mean's lips curled slightly as he said, "If it were easy to kill, it wouldn't be so terrifying. This type of Black Serpent possesses extremely high spiritual intelligence and the ability to charm souls, causing those it encounters to temporarily lose consciousness. And that's not even mentioning how much more terrifying it will become when it fully matures. In short, our village is about to face a great calamity. That is all I know. Beyond that, I am also out of options. We can only rely on the will of heaven. That day, after returning home, Mr. Allen called all his descendants and recounted everything, instructing them that they absolutely must not leave the house after dark to avoid danger. From that day on, every few days, a dog would go missing in Loitui village, then a chicken or a pig. At first, people thought there were thieves in the village, but it wasn't until Mr. Dan's story spread that they realized otherwise. That evening after dinner, Mr. Dan was watching TV until past 10 p.m., intending to turn off the lights and go to bed. But he heard his dog, chained in the backyard, growling and whimpering. Whimper. Thinking it was a thief, he quickly grabbed his flashlight and rushed out. However, as soon as he reached the backyard, a horrifying sight met his eye. In the beam of his flashlight, he saw a naked, skeletal old man. In the old man's hands was his dog, already dead. Black blood incessantly dripped from its mouth. More terrifying still, coiled around the old man's neck was a pitch-black snake, as thick as a thigh. It opened its wide mouth, catching the dripping blood from the dog. When the flashlight beam hit him directly in the face, the old man turned his eyes, all whites, towards Mr. Dan, making him freeze in his tracks. Dan. Dear? Just then, his wife's voice called from inside the house. Hearing the call, the old man, clutching the dog, turned and fled. When he reached the barbed wire fence, he leapt over it and vanished into the pitch-black night. Mr. Dan stood there, wide-eyed and open-mouthed, utterly dumbfounded. His wife unexpectedly patted him on the shoulder from behind, startling him and causing him to drop the flashlight. Even after entering the house and securely locking the door, Mr. Dan's hands were still trembling, and his eyes had a vacant, haunted look. Mrs. Sue, his wife, asked with worry, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Why haven't you said anything when I've been asking? You look as if you've seen a ghost." Swallowing hard, Mr. Dan's voice trembled. "It's true. I really did see a ghost just now. It was terrifying, dear. Oh, you're talking nonsense in the middle of the night." "Don't scare me like that." Forcing himself to calm down, Mr. Dan declared with a serious face, "I swear, I really saw a demon just now. It took our dog from the backyard." Seeing that her husband's expression wasn't a joke, Mrs. Sue also began to feel frightened. "Really, dear?" Mr. Dan simply nodded, saying no more. That night, both husband and wife kept the lights blazing, staying awake until dawn before daring to step outside. When they went to the backyard from yesterday, there were still black drops of their dog's blood staining the ground. That very day, Mr. Dan's story spread rapidly, and soon the entire village knew. The people of Loitui village now dared not leave their homes after dusk, and many families even kept their lights on while sleeping. The rumors quickly spread throughout the commune and district. Loi Thui village was now known as the Haunted Village. Before dusk, the sounds of children playing and running and people gathering for lively chatter after a hard day's work used to echo. But now, only an atmosphere of gloom, tension, and fear enveloped the entire village, especially Elder Crane's descendants. From that day on, no one dared to step out of their homes after dark. Naturally, the mysterious disappearances of animals continued regularly. The only difference was that everyone knew for sure that these acts were not human, so no one reported them to the authorities anymore. That day, Mrs. Daisy, Mr. Allen's second daughter-in-law, unfortunately went into labor at exactly 1 a.m. She and her husband lived far out in the conversion zone, with only a few scattered houses nearby. Knowing it would be extremely dangerous to go out at this hour, Mr. Thomas intended to wait until dawn to take his wife to the hospital. However, his wife's contractions became more frequent and intense. Mrs. Daisy's agonizing cries made Mr. Thomas, her husband, anxious and frantic, breaking out in a cold sweat. When she gave birth to their first 2 children, she also had difficult labors, requiring medical intervention to safely deliver the babies. After a long internal struggle, he finally decided to drive her to the hospital in the middle of the night. Lily and Tom were still sound asleep, but to be safe, he planned to ask their grandfather to come and sleep with them, while their grandmother would accompany him to the hospital. After the sputtering sound of the motorcycle faded, a silent, desolate atmosphere enveloped his house. Suddenly, outside the front door, there was a heavy thumping, as if someone was pounding with a hammer. Lily and Tom, still in their drowsy sleep, were startled awake by the loud noise. When they opened their eyes, they saw no sign of their parents, and fear began to set in. The heavy thumping continued relentlessly. Lily's voice trembled as she asked, "Who's there? Who's outside?" Hearing Lily's voice, the pounding suddenly ceased. But only a few seconds later, it began again, incessantly hammering at the door. Tom, her younger brother, was now so terrified that he whimpered and then burst into tears. "Who is it? Is that Mom and Dad out there?" This time, after his voice spoke, the sounds once again fell silent and were heard no more. Ever since the incident with Elder Crane, their parents had repeatedly warned the 2 siblings. Under no circumstances were they to step outside after dark, and even if someone knocked, they must never open the door. Tom was still young and didn't pay much attention, but Lily remembered every word her mother said. Thinking that the person outside the door had left, Lily finally felt a wave of relief. She turned to her brother, trying to comfort him. "Shh! Stop crying, little brother. The person outside is gone. Don't be scared. Big sister is here." No sooner had Lily finished speaking than the window right next to where the siblings sat suddenly rattled violently, making both of them jump. Tom, who had just stopped crying, now shrieked in terror. Lily, also panicked, quickly picked up her brother and moved away from the window, huddling in a distant corner of the house. After a fierce shaking, the window latch finally gave way, and both panels flew open. A piercingly cold gust of wind swept directly into their faces, making the 2 children shiver uncontrollably. A face slowly appeared from behind the window and spoke. "What are you 2 doing in there?" "Come open the door for Grandpa." It was indeed Mr. Allen's voice. Seeing this, Tom was overjoyed and had to run to open the door. But Lily quickly pulled him back as she suddenly noticed something unusual. Mr. Allen was shirtless. His face was indeed his, but his eyes looked strangely vacant. Tom looked at his sister and spoke. "It's Grandpa outside. Big sister. Open the door and let him in." Lily didn't know how to explain it to her brother, but an inexplicable sense of unease gnawed at her as she looked at the face outside the window. "Grandpa, why are you coming to our house in the middle of the night?" Mr. Allen reached his hand through the window, holding out 2 red candies. He said, "Oh, your parents asked me to come look after you too, and I brought each of you a candy." "Tom, come, get your candy, grandson." When she saw the gaunt, shriveled hand, Lily felt that something was wrong, but Tom's eyes lit up at the sight of the candies. He forcefully pulled his hand away from his sister and dashed forward to grab a candy. The moment his hand touched the candy, the shriveled hand immediately gripped him tightly and pulled him forcefully towards the window. "Mr. Bessie, Mr. Allen let out a truly grotesque and chilling laugh. Tom shrieked, for what he saw before him was no longer his grandfather, but a skeletal old man with a terrifying face cackling at him. Lily too was trembling with fear, her face pale, but seeing her younger brother in danger, she quickly ran forward, grabbed his hand, and pulled with all her might. Tom, being torn between 2 forces, cried out in agonizing pain. Despite her best efforts, a child's strength was no match. From the old man's mouth, the head of a pitch-black snake began to emerge. It struck precisely at Tom's throat, causing him to convulse violently. Lily, horrified, dared not pull any more. She quickly retreated to the corner of the house, screaming repeatedly in utter terror. After struggling for a moment, Tom slowly went limp and finally lay motionless. His entire body gradually turned purple-black, then shriveled, his blood completely drained by the snake's head, not a single drop remaining. Once finished, it slithered back into the old man's mouth and vanished. Standing outside, the old man's head twisted grotesquely, tilting 90 degrees, then pressed close to the window bars. Thinking he was about to force his head through, Lily screamed even louder in terror. The old man's mouth curved into a smile, revealing blackened teeth, and he held out the 2 blood-stained candies from earlier. Come here, Grandpa has candy. Go away! Go away, you demon!" Lily cried and screamed, cursing the old man outside the window. Hearing her words, he wasn't angered, but laughed even louder. He tried to push the candy closer, then rasped, "This candy is delicious. Come get it." Just then, a sudden call came from the main door. "Lily!" Lily, the unexpected call. He quickly withdrew his hand and vanished into the pitch-black night as swiftly as a flash. Hearing Lily's screams and sobs from inside the house, Mr. Allen grew even more anxious, calling out in a choked voice, "Lily!" "What's wrong, grandchild?" "Quickly, open the door for Grandpa." After hearing it a second time, Lily believed this was truly her grandfather, but she still cautiously peeked through the crack in the door. When she saw it was indeed him, she opened the door and burst into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Stop crying. What happened to you? And where's Tom? At the mention of Tom, Lily cried even harder, her voice choked with tears. She pointed inside the house, towards the window. Mr. Allen quickly pushed her aside and stepped in. When he looked, he froze in his tracks, as if struck dead. Tom was lying on the ground, covered in blood, lifeless. Mr. Allen screamed in horror and rushed to shake and curse his grandson's body. But he remained unresponsive. His face had turned a deep purple black, and his breath had stopped long ago. He clutched Tom tightly, wailing in extreme agony. A moment later, he gently placed Tom's body down and stormed out, grabbing Lily and shaking her violently, cursing as he did so. "You rotten child! How could you watch over your brother and let this happen to him? I'll beat you to death. Tell me, speak now, or I'll kill you. Tell me, what did you do to Tom?" After being slapped a few times, making her head spin, Lily, crying and whimpering, stammered, He was sucked dry by the demon outside the window. Allen froze for a few seconds, a cold shiver running down his spine, giving him goosebumps. He quickly looked around nervously, then pulled Lily inside and slammed the door shut. Now, looking closely at the wound on Tom's neck, he knew Lily wasn't lying. Reflecting on his earlier actions, he suddenly felt a pang of guilt. He knelt down to comfort and apologized to her. "I'm sorry. I was wrong just now. Are you hurt?" Lily didn't answer, only nodded, sniffling. He held her close, looking at Tom's body, and tears streamed down his face, his heart aching as if torn into pieces. The next day, Mr. Thomas and Mrs. Daisy, still joyful from welcoming their new baby boy, received the devastating news about Tom. Mrs. Daisy fainted on the spot. Mr. Thomas's face was vacant, and he screamed and wailed like a madman. For an entire week afterward, Mrs. Daisy couldn't eat anything, only drinking water to sustain herself. "The newborn baby, hungry for milk," cried fiercely. That period was truly a nightmare for the couple, and for Mr. Allen. After that incident, the fear among the villagers of Loai Thoi reached its peak. Some families in the conversion zone were so terrified that they moved back into the center of the village to stay with relatives. Elderly people who previously lived alone were now brought into their children's homes for care and protection. Seeing that this situation could not be allowed to continue, the district authorities formed a special task force, continuously patrolling Loi Tui village all night long. Of course, the district authorities had heard rumors of strange, ghostly occurrences, but they didn't believe them. They suspected that an individual or a group of people was intentionally feigning supernatural phenomena to instill panic and fear among the residents. The task force they dispatched consisted of 10 people, divided into 2 groups of 5, patrolling every nook and cranny of Loi Thu village when night fell. Indeed, since their arrival, the disappearances had ceased. At this point, they became even more convinced of their earlier hypothesis. Surely, the group of perpetrators, upon learning of the police presence, no longer dared to act so rashly. Tonight was the 10th night. If nothing happened, the team would withdraw to the district headquarters tomorrow morning to report the results. This deployment was considered complete, as it had both frightened the malicious individuals and somewhat reassured the villagers. It was now almost 1:00 a.m. Officer Brian, the team leader, yawned, then pulled a cigarette from his pocket and lit it, sharing one with each of his 4 comrades. He said, "Hang in there, brothers. Just one more night, and we'll have completed our mission. If we do well this time, we might even get commendations from our superiors." After he spoke, all 5 men laughed cheerfully. One of them spoke up. Officer Brian's right. "You got da." When I first got this assignment, I was a bit worried and even thought about feigning illness. Ihey. Talking there, anyone ki sanita kel shitanoa. Now, looking back, I realize how foolish I was. I almost missed a good opportunity to earn merit. Hearing Officer Ben, the men laughed heartily again. As they were laughing, Officer Brian suddenly fell silent, pointing towards a nearby bush. He spoke with fear in his voice. "Does everyone see that?" I just saw a white shadow dart into that thicket over there. The other 4 shook their heads. Officer Brian quickly grabbed Officer Ben's arm and said, "Officer Ben, aren't you eager to earn merit? Go check what's in that bush." Hearing this, Officer Ben stammered with a scared look. I, or maybe all 5 of us should go, sir." Officer Brian's voice turned stern. "All right then, I gave you the opportunity, and you refused. So I'll earn the merit alone." Without waiting for Officer Ben's reply, Officer Brian cautiously approached the thicket. He peered inside, then suddenly screamed in utter terror, "Ghost! There's a ghost! A ghost!" As he spoke, Officer Brian scrambled headlong back towards the others. Officer Ben, completely spooked, also turned and fled. After running for a short distance, he suddenly heard laughter from behind. Sensing something was wrong, he turned his head and saw the 4 men clutching their stomachs, guffawing at him. Realizing he'd been tricked, he couldn't bring himself to be angry. With a shy, embarrassed expression, he walked back to the group, head bowed, saying nothing. After a bout of laughter, the men continued their patrol. Officer Brian still led the way, flashlight and electric stun baton in hand. Trailing behind was Officer Ben, still embarrassed about the earlier incident. As they walked, Officer Ben suddenly heard faint footsteps behind him, as if someone was gently walking. He quickly stopped, and the footsteps ceased. He took a step, and the sounds reappeared. Frightened, he swallowed hard and spun around. But there was no one around. Thinking he had misheard, he dared not tell anyone, fearing they would once again mock him for being timid and easily scared. From the moment he heard those footsteps, an indescribable sense of unease began to stir within him. He had a feeling that something horrifying was about to happen. Gripping his electric stun baton tightly, he continuously scanned his surroundings, occasionally shining his light behind him to see if anyone was following. As they walked, everyone was startled to hear a mournful, agonizing cry echoing in the night. When they looked towards a distant bush, they all shivered, seeing a dark figure sitting there, head bowed low. The strange crying sound was indeed coming from that figure. Officer Brian cautiously approached, then called out loudly, "Who's there? Who's sitting out here alone in the middle of the night? the figure continued to sob, as if not hearing him. As they got within 5 meters, everyone could clearly see it was an old man, shirtless. Below, he wore extremely old, tattered, and foul-smelling pants. "Sir, old man, why are you sitting here alone in the middle of the night?" The moment Officer Bryan finished speaking, the crying ceased. The old man slowly lifted his face to look at them. It was Elder Crane's face before his death. Looking at the police officers, the old man remained silent, then bowed his head again. Officer Bryan quickly spoke up. "We are police officers from the district, sent to protect our villagers. Recently, there have been many disappearances in our village, so it's best not to go out alone at night." The old man once again lifted his head, scanned the officers, nodded, and then stood up to leave. As the old man walked past, everyone, for some inexplicable reason, felt a shiver run down their spines, their skin crawling. Particularly, a repulsive putrid odor emanated from the old man, making their hair stand on end. As the old man walked past Officer Ben, his hair stood on end. He sensed an extreme danger from the old man before him. Involuntarily, he took several steps back. Seeing this, the old man seemed to sense it, casting a deceptive look at Officer Ben, smiling, then walked straight ahead. When the old man's figure had gone a considerable distance, Officer Ben finally breathed a sigh of relief, recovering his composure. Never before had he experienced such trembling fear and chill in the presence of an old man. Suddenly, as if discovering something, Officer Bryan loudly exclaimed, "Everyone, come here and look." Clearly, the ground here was still muddy after yesterday's rain, yet there were no footprints of that old man. At this, everyone shone their flashlights down to check, and indeed, they only saw their own shoe prints. After examining it repeatedly for a moment longer, Officer Bryan gasped, "Oh no, I just remembered. Earlier, when I shone my light on that old man, there was clearly no shadow. This old man is definitely trouble, chasing. As a team leader and a representative of the authorities, despite his current panic and fear, Officer Bryan had to appear resolute to be a pillar of strength for his team. He said he wanted to chase the old man, but deep down, he wished they wouldn't find him. However, his wish did not come true. After running for only a short distance, the old man stood squarely in front of them, as if he had deliberately stopped there, waiting for them to catch up. Swallowing hard, electric stun baton firmly in hand, Officer Bryan shouted, "Old man, put your hands on your head, quickly." Every word he spoke was clear and sharp, yet the old man stood motionless. He repeated his command once more. But the old man still stood there impassively, as if he hadn't heard a word. At this point, losing patience, he pulled a rubber bullet gun from his person and with a sharp voice said, "If you still refuse to cooperate, don't blame us." After waiting for about a minute, a deafening gunshot rang out. But what met everyone's eyes was shock and horror, as the old man still stood there impassively, seemingly unaffected by the shot. Sweat now beaded on Officer Bryan's forehead. He continuously pulled the trigger 2 more times. Of course, the subsequent 2 shots also failed to harm the old man in the slightest. The only difference was that he now slowly began to move, turning his face. When they saw that face, everyone froze in their tracks, as if struck dead by terror. The old man before them had now revealed his true form as a demon. his fingernails long, sharp, and pitch black. He bared his blackened teeth and cackled maniacally at the men. From his mouth, the head of a snake emerged, coiling around his neck. The snake's eyes glowed like two sparks, staring intently at the group. Its tongue flickered in and out, a look of intense hunger on its face. Seeing this, the men quickly retreated backward. Officer Brian immediately told Officer Ben to call the other team for reinforcement. No one knew what this thing before them truly was, but they could definitively say it was not human. Therefore, they didn't hold much hope for the weapons they were carrying. Seeing the fearful men constantly retreating, the old man laughed even more fiercely. His eyes, all whites, rolled wildly. He crouched, then leaped over 3 meters high, plunging towards the group. If it were an ordinary group of people, they would surely have broken ranks and fled in disarray. But these were well-trained individuals, so despite facing this terrifying entity, they maintained their formation. Everyone simultaneously pressed the switches on their electric stun buttons, producing bone-chilling crackling sounds. When the old man's long, sharp fingernails were struck by the electric currents, he shrieked in pain. Immediately, a burnt, charred smell, like roasting meat, rose from around them. Fear appeared on the old man's face. His eyes glared at the electric batons. Then he bared his teeth and growled. He ran in circles around the group, searching for an opening to attack, sometimes even leaping over their heads. His objective was to distract and panic the men, preventing them from maintaining their formation. Then he would pick them off one by one. Officer Brian seemed to grasp the old man's intention and loudly shouted, "Everyone pay attention! Maintain formation and focus. If anyone dares to flee, I will deal with them right here." His words were as sharp as a military command, immediately followed by the 4 men's clear, unanimous understood. At this moment, the 5 men were resolved to live or die together with the demonic old man before them. After a long while, seeing that his tactics were ineffective, the old man stood still, grinding his teeth, staring directly at the men. His eyes changed from white to a blood-red color, then suddenly emitted light. When struck by that light, the men's minds gradually became hazy, as if they were being hypnotized. Being a man of steel will, Officer Brian immediately regained consciousness after a few seconds. Seeing the men around him with vacant eyes, he quickly shouted loudly, "Everyone, be careful! Wake up! Wake up!" The other 3 slowly regained their senses after hearing him. But Officer Ben's eyes remained blank and soulless. In his head, a grotesque voice from the old man suddenly echoed, "Kill them! Kill them all for me!" A fierce glint suddenly flashed in Officer Ben's eyes. He thrust his electric stun baton directly at a teammate standing right beside him, causing the man to convulse violently. "Ben, what are you doing?" Officer Brian's voice was like a snarl as he cursed Ben directly to his face. But Ben heard nothing. Only the old man's words incessantly echoed in his mind. Ben continued to thrust the electric stun baton towards Officer Brian, but he managed to dodge in time, swinging his arm to knock the stun baton away, then delivered a resounding slap to Ben's face. After the powerful slap, Ben seemed to snap out of it. He looked bewildered, not understanding what had just happened, only seeing Officer Brian glaring at him with angry eyes, his fist poised to strike again. Officer Ben quickly stammered. Officer Brian, "It's me, Ben. Why are you hitting me?" Ben's unexpected words made Officer Brian quickly pull his hand back. The events just described, though long in narration, had occurred in a mere flash. The comrade who had been shocked was still groaning on the ground, while Officer Ben's head was still reeling from Officer Brian's powerful slap. Feeling this was the best moment to attack, the old man, who had been standing still until now, suddenly lunged forward without warning. His target was Officer John, who was still curled up on the ground. The old man's actions were too swift and unexpected for anyone to react. By the time they regained their senses, the old man had already seized Officer John. Before the electric stun batons could even touch the old man, Officer John's neck had been bitten in a fatal strike to the artery by the snake, causing blood to gush out. Officer John only managed a few spastic jerks, foamed at the mouth. His eyes rolled back and then lay still and lifeless. "No, you demon! I'll kill you!" Officer Brian screamed in pain and fury. He lunged, thrusting his electric stun baton directly at the old man. With an utterly grotesque movement, the old man twisted his body, narrowly dodging the stun baton. Then he grabbed Officer John and dashed away. The old man's speed was incredible. In just 2 or 3 leaps, he had put a considerable distance between himself and the men. Officer Brian, his voice sharp and commanding, quickly ordered, "Chase him! Quickly, chase him!" Everyone immediately pursued, but after running a short distance, they lost his trail. The old man's figure was nowhere to be seen. It was nighttime, making the pursuit even more difficult, especially since the one they wanted to catch was not human. Fortunately, when they looked down, they saw drops of Officer John's blood still on the ground. They carefully followed the blood trail, searching. After a short distance, the other 5-person team also arrived. After hearing Officer Brian recount the story, everyone was greatly bewildered and terrified. Now, with reinforcements, everyone felt somewhat less anxious and fearful, continuing to carefully follow the trail to pursue the old man. They called it a pursuit. But honestly, no one believed they could actually catch that demonic old man. At this point, they only hoped to retrieve Officer John's body so he could rest in peace and his family grief could be lessened. After a while of following the trail, everyone saw it led straight to the edge of the village. When it reached an old 3-section house, it vanished. Officer Ben then spoke. "Officer Brian, do you think that old man is inside this house?" Pondering for a moment, Officer Brian replied, "According to the trail, it's highly probable. So what should we do now? Should we storm into that house to search?" Officer Brian waved his hand dismissively. "Calm down. We need to thoroughly examine the surroundings first to avoid alarming it or falling into its trap." Everyone carefully observed the area around the house, seeing that the gate and house doors were tightly shut. Inside, only a faint, flickering oil lamp light seeped out through the window. Just as everyone was still unsure of their next move, a piercing scream suddenly erupted from inside the house, followed by the clatter of breaking objects. Seeing this, Officer Brian quickly shouted, "Everyone, attention! Charge in!" The wooden gate was kicked down with a crash by 2 police officers. When the men reached the house door, the sounds inside had ceased. Nothing more was heard. After listening for a moment longer, Officer Brian ordered them to break down the door. After 3 powerful kicks, the door's hinges burst open. As everyone stepped inside, they saw a dark shadow dart out the window and quickly vanish into the pitch-black night. No one could clearly see who it was, only that his movements were incredibly swift. When they looked towards the bed, everyone shivered in horror. On it were two bodies, their clothes ripped open, drenched in blood. One of the bodies was Officer John, and the other was Master Mean. At this moment, everyone could definitively confirm that the one who had just leaped out the window was indeed the demonic old man they had faced earlier, and no one else. When they approached the window at the back of the house, Officer Brian saw that it still bore traces of blood and a foul-smelling, sticky residue. Several window bars appeared to have been cut by something sharp. Clearly, the old man had entered the house this way. The next morning, news of Master Main's mysterious death spread rapidly, making the villagers, already fearful, even more so. Some well-off families even arranged to move elsewhere. Families with relatives far away also prepared to stay with them for a while, to seek refuge. Naturally, the truth of what happened that night was kept hidden by the authorities. The same went for Officer John's death. If this news were to leak out, the people of Loei, Toi village would surely fall into extreme panic. Afterwards, countless uncontrollable situations could arise. However, Officer John's death was not in vain. At the very least, the authorities could now confirm that these events were not human-caused. And more importantly, when searching Master Mean's house, they found a crucial clue. An ancient book written in Chinese, and next to it, a letter sent to the old man by someone. After having it translated, the authorities learned that the book was very old, and its content spoke of a type of dark magic called Mother-Child Spirit Serpent.